Welcome to Galactic Audiobooks. I'm Max, and today I'll be your narrator. But before we dive into today's story, please take a moment to quickly check below and see if you've subscribed to the channel. It's completely free, and it helps ensure our videos appear more often in your feed. Let's get started. Part 1: The Discovery. The small alien delegation huddled around their holographic console in a dark, sterile room. The air was thick with tension, an electric hum reverberating in the silence as Xaro, a seasoned galactic scientist, flicked through the data on their tablet. Their compound eyes widened, antennae twitching in disbelief. "Xaro, this can't be right," they muttered under their breath, mandibles clicking nervously. "Can you confirm these readings?" "Xaro, confirmed. We've cross-checked everything. It's accurate." Xaro's three antennae stood rigid in alarm, the flicker of panic crossing their usually composed features. "Xaro, we need to report this immediately. The entire Galactic Council needs to hear this." The conference hall outside was already buzzing with activity. Hundreds of alien species, from the immense jelly-like beings who floated in peaceful meditation to the sharp, crystalline forms of the Xarn, who communicated through vibrations, were taking their seats inside a shimmering energy dome. Every race from across the stars had gathered here for the 10,000th Galactic Conference. It was a tradition eons old, a space to present newly discovered worlds and groundbreaking knowledge, but what Xaro was about to present would change everything. Xaro's pulse quickened, their mandibles trembling slightly. They could already hear the voices of the crowd behind the thick walls. The other species had come to witness another world, another strange and exotic discovery. They weren't prepared for the truth that awaited them. The air smelled faintly of ozone and the acidic tang of nervousness. Xaro steeled themselves, adjusting their ceremonial robes as they approached the stage. As the hologram flickered to life, the massive chamber fell into silence, the alien species staring in rapt attention. The room, previously filled with murmurs and soft conversations, now hummed with anxious expectation. Xaro stepped up to the podium, eyes scanning the room one last time, feeling the weight of the moment pressed down on them. A slight tremor passed through their claws as they keyed the console. "Xaro, I stand before you today to introduce a world that defies every law of galactic science. A world that should never have developed life, yet here it stands, Earth." A large hologram flickered to life above them, showing a beautiful blue and white planet spinning slowly in the vastness of space. At first glance, it appeared peaceful, serene, and normal. The planet seemed like any other habitable world: the blue oceans, the fluffy white clouds, the calm rotation of its continents beneath an icy crown of poles. Xaro paused, allowing the image to settle before continuing. Their voice echoed through the hall, steady despite the rising tension. "Xaro, beautiful, isn't it? But do not be fooled. What you see here is the most dangerous planet in the galaxy." A ripple of disbelief passed through the crowd. Laughter erupted from the back, as several gaseous beings emitted gas-like bubbles, the faint glow of amusement flickering around their forms. Clearly, the audience thought this was a joke. Xaro clicked the controls, and the hologram zoomed in on Earth's surface, revealing a peaceful beach scene. The gentle lapping of waves against the shore, the distant silhouettes of trees swaying in the breeze, it all seemed tranquil, almost too peaceful. "Xaro, I know, it looks like any other habitable world, But let me show you what lies beneath its surface. The hologram flickered again, shifting to a different angle, showing an ocean in turmoil. Waves, massive as mountains, crashed violently against the land. The camera zoomed in on the surge of water, splintering trees, and tearing apart anything in its path. Xaro, these waves, they are not just ordinary tides. Earth's oceans are constantly in motion. These waves are driven by not one, but two massive celestial bodies, both affecting the tides. Smaller waves can crush bones, but the larger ones can level entire cities. The laughter in the back stopped abruptly. The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Xaro allowed a brief moment of silence before they continued. The next image flickered to life, showing a serene mountain range, a symbol of Earth's natural beauty. But Xaro's tone darkened. Xaro, and these mountains? They are the result of something far worse. Earth's surface is fractured into tectonic plates, floating on a sea of molten rock beneath. These plates constantly collide, causing earthquakes. A single shift can cause catastrophic damage. The image shifted again, showing a violent earthquake shattering a city. Buildings crumbled, and the ground opened up in massive fissures, swallowing anything in its way. Xaro, Earth is a geological battlefield. Continents collide and break apart, triggering events that we consider apocalyptic. And yet, life on this planet endures. It adapts. A few species in the audience began to shift uneasily, their senses on alert, but Xaro was just warming up. Xaro, and perhaps you think it would be safer on land, away from the ocean or the earthquakes. But Earth has something else in store for its inhabitants. Xaro brought up another image, this one showing a perfect sky, a soft, inviting shade of blue, streaked with thin wisps of clouds. Xaro, this is Earth's atmosphere. It seems peaceful, but it's in constant chaos. These clouds are made of vaporized water, held aloft by the planet's immense temperature fluctuations. And when the conditions are just right, these clouds become something far more deadly. The hologram shifted to show a tornado tearing through a town. The sheer destructive force of it was beyond anything seen in a galaxy. Buildings were ripped from their foundations as the wind howled with fury. Xaro, these are called storms. Tornadoes, hurricanes, lightning storms on Earth, they are as regular as the sunrise. Every moment, somewhere on the planet, approximately 2,000 of these storms are active. The humans have entire networks dedicated to tracking and predicting them. They even have a profession dedicated to warning their people of these deadly occurrences. The room had grown quiet. Even the most confident beings in the audience were leaning forward now, listening intently. Xaro, but we haven't even gotten to the worst part yet. Xaro paused, allowing the tension to build. Part 2, Earth's hostile oceans. Xaro clicked a button, and the hologram shifted to reveal the vast, seemingly tranquil oceans of Earth. The audience saw the deep blue waves crashing rhythmically against jagged rocky shores, their peaks shimmering with the soft light of distant stars, creating a false sense of calm. Xaro, these oceans, despite their peaceful appearance, are made of water, a substance so corrosive that it can break down metal. And yet, the native creatures humans swallow it without fear. They rely on it for survival. They drink it, bathe in it, and even build entire civilizations on it. But the true danger of this water is far more insidious than mere corrosion. Xaro's claws clicked softly as they manipulated the controls, causing the hologram to zoom in. The audience was now shown a terrifying sight. The ocean was no longer serene but violent, churning with force. A monstrous wave rose, far higher than any structure the beings in the chamber had ever seen. It was a wall of water, taller than any tower, streaked with white foam, a crushing force barreling towards the shore. Xaro, these are called tsunamis. Waves taller than any building can surge onto land, obliterating entire cities in mere moments. And the humans? They live with this constant threat. They don't cower from it, they prepare for it. In fact, they build their homes and cities along these very shores, fully aware of the risk. To them, it's just another part of life, a challenge to be met, not feared. The audience shifted uncomfortably as the images showed the destructive force of the waves, swallowing buildings, cars, and trees with frightening ease. The terrifyingly beautiful landscape of Earth had a hidden face, one of raw and brutal power. Xaro, and it doesn't stop there. You see, Earth's oceans are in constant turmoil, driven by forces beyond the human's control. These waves are not caused by wind, like on most planets. They are controlled by the gravitational pull of two celestial bodies, Earth's moon and its sun. As they pull on the oceans, the water moves, not gently, but violently, creating a rhythm of chaos. The image shifted again, now showing a beach town, peaceful and sunny one moment, and completely ravaged the next. The tsunami crashed down, obliterating everything in its path with terrifying force. Xaro, the human race has learned to survive here, on a planet where the oceans could literally swallow them whole at any moment. They've built structures designed to withstand these waves, they've developed complex warning systems, and they've even cultivated an entire science dedicated to predicting and surviving these catastrophic events. Xaro's voice dropped slightly, the calmness in their tone contrasting with the images of destruction on the screen. The audience, stunned into silence, could barely process the fact that a species could survive, nay, thrive on a world like this. Xaro, and still, despite these threats, Earth's oceans are home to some of the most astonishing creatures. Creatures that have evolved to conquer not just the violence of the ocean, but the cruelty of the world itself. These beings, these humans, are masters of their environment. They don't simply endure the dangers of the ocean, they adapt to it. The hologram switched once more, now showing humans in small boats, braving the turbulent seas with nothing but their willpower and a handful of primitive tools. They fished in the open ocean, battling the elements to secure food. They sailed across vast distances, navigating the roughest waters known to any species, enduring storms and the unknown. Xaro, the humans call it the sea. A place of both bounty and death. And despite all that it takes from them, they keep returning. They have built cities on the edge of these vast, angry oceans, constantly pushing against the forces that threaten to destroy them. The audience was now riveted. Some of the more distant species could not even fathom why any species would risk such constant danger. But for humans, it seemed to be in their nature. To fight. To survive. To face the impossible and declare, I will conquer it. Xaro, but there is something far more terrifying in Earth's oceans. It is not just the tsunamis or the shifting tides. It is the creatures that dwell beneath its surface, some of them larger than ships, others small but lethal beyond measure. Some creatures are so resilient that they have survived nearly every mass extinction Earth has ever known. They have adapted to survive in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean, where light itself dares not venture. The hologram shifted again, showing images of massive squid-like creatures with tentacles that could crush entire ships, sharks with rows of razor-sharp teeth capable of slicing through steel, and even the strange, bioluminescent beings that lived in the crushing depths, with bodies adapted to withstand pressures that would turn any other species into mush. Xaro, these creatures, this ocean, should be impossible to survive. And yet the humans not only endure, they thrive. They dive into the depths of these waters, into the unknown, to understand what lurks there. And they do it with no fear, armed only with their knowledge and their curiosity. They've learned how to track the movements of every wave, every storm, every danger the ocean throws at them. And they continue to conquer it, time and time again. Xaro let the weight of their words sink in, the quiet in the room palpable. The audience, once skeptical, now sat in stunned silence. They had never before encountered a species that not only survived in such a hostile environment but actively sought out challenges in it. Xaro, this, my friends, is Earth. A planet where survival is not just an act of existence, but a constant battle. And the humans? They are winning. Part 3, The Earth's Geological Chaos. The audience grew quieter. Some of them trembled. The images Xaro was presenting were unlike anything they had seen before, and the sense of unease in the room grew stronger. But Xaro wasn't finished yet. Their voice, though steady, carried a weight of certainty, as if they were revealing a truth that the galaxy was not prepared to hear. Xaro, let's talk about Earth's geology. The planet is constantly moving. Its surface is covered in tectonic plates that shift and crash into each other, causing earthquakes, eruptions, and volcanic activity. Xaro clicked the console again, and the hologram shifted to show a violent volcanic eruption. Massive lava streams cascaded down the sides of a mountain, glowing orange as they tore through the land. The heat from the eruption was so intense it seemed to warp the very air itself. The sound of the explosion was deafening, an eruption so powerful it could be felt across entire continents. Xaro, Earth has over 1,500 volcanoes, and many of them are active. Some of them spew toxic gases into the atmosphere, creating an environment so dangerous, you would think the inhabitants would have evolved to avoid it. But no, humans not only live next to these volcanoes, they thrive there. The hologram shifted once more, now showing images of human settlements built on the edges of active volcanic regions. The bright, deadly lava was only a short distance away from homes, fields, and cities. Incredibly, people were going about their daily lives working, eating, and even playing in the shadow of volcanoes that could erupt at any moment. Xaro, they've built entire cities near volcanoes. They've developed methods to predict eruptions, to survive the ash falls, to rebuild after everything is destroyed. In the face of death and destruction, they don't flee. They stay. They adapt. They use the very force of nature against itself. A low murmur rippled through the audience. The other species in the room couldn't comprehend this behavior. Why would anyone choose to live in such an unforgiving environment? Why would a species not only endure such violence but seek to conquer it? Xaro, you see, these volcanoes, these eruptions, They aren't just natural disasters to humans, they are opportunities. The ash from eruptions enriches the soil, creating fertile land where crops grow faster and stronger. The humans have learned how to harness the destructive power of their planet. They use it to build, to cultivate, to thrive. They've turned devastation into life. Xaro paused, letting that thought settle in. The image in the hologram now showed a farm at the base of a dormant volcano, the soil blackened by ash, yet covered with vibrant crops. Humans had learned to live in symbiosis with the chaos, adapting to it, using it for their benefit. Xaro, but it's not just the volcanoes. Earth's surface is constantly shifting. The tectonic plates beneath the ground are in a state of perpetual motion. They crash into each other, creating earthquakes that shake the very foundations of the planet. The hologram zoomed in on the ground, showing a fault line splitting open the earth itself. Buildings crumbled as the ground moved beneath them, entire sections of the land folding in on themselves. It was a sight of unimaginable destruction, but the humans, they had learned to cope. Xaro, every year, Earth experiences thousands of earthquakes, some so powerful they can level cities. Yet, the humans don't run from the shaking ground. They build structures that can withstand these violent movements. They study the faults, track the tremors, and prepare for the worst. They have become experts in surviving what should be impossible. Xaro clicked another button, and now the hologram displayed the remains of a city after an earthquake. The buildings had collapsed, the streets were cracked open, but amidst the rubble, there were humans' rescue teams, doctors, engineers working together to save what they could and rebuild what had been lost. Xaro, when the ground trembles, they don't panic. They respond. They rise from the ashes and rebuild. They never stop fighting. Even when their planet itself tries to destroy them, they find a way to survive, to adapt. The audience was stunned into silence. How could a species so fragile, so physically limited, survive in a place like this? They had no claws, no natural weapons, no defense against the violent forces of nature. And yet they persisted. They thrived. Xaro, and it's not just the volcanoes and earthquakes. Earth's surface is constantly shifting in other ways. Tectonic movements create vast mountain ranges, deep trenches in the oceans, and chasms that span entire continents. Humans have crossed them all. They've scaled the highest peaks, crossed the most dangerous deserts, and ventured into the deepest caves. Nothing on Earth is beyond their reach. The hologram showed humans climbing a snow-covered mountain, braving the freezing winds and thin air. Then it shifted to show humans diving into the ocean depths, exploring trenches so deep the light of the sun never touched them. The human race had become masters of the Earth's most extreme environments. Xaro, they don't just survive Earth's chaos, they have become one with it. They embrace the challenge of the land, the oceans, the very forces that would have destroyed most other species. And with each challenge they face, they grow stronger, more resilient. It's as if Earth itself has shaped them into the perfect survivors. Xaro's voice grew softer, almost reverent, as the images continued to play. Xaro, we thought we were studying a planet on the brink of destruction. We thought its inhabitants would be consumed by their world's rage. But we were wrong. They don't just survive on Earth, they master it. And they do it every single day. Part 4, Earth's Wildlife, Evolutionary Nightmares. Xaro, Let's talk about Earth's wildlife, Xaro continued, their voice steady, though a tinge of disbelief echoed in their words. Earth's ecosystems have shaped life in unimaginable ways. Xaro clicked a button on the console, and the hologram shifted to display a lush, vibrant forest. Birds chirped in the distance, and the bright sunlight filtered through the canopy, casting shifting shadows over the dense foliage. It seemed like a peaceful paradise at first glance, but Xaro's voice soon shattered the illusion. The camera zoomed in on a line of tiny, industrious ants marching across a branch, their tiny bodies moving in perfect unison. As the image focused, the audience could see the ants carrying food, broken down insects, and even small fragments of leaves back to their massive underground nests. Xaro, these are ants. They are tiny, smaller than my own claws, but they are capable of stripping an entire animal to its bones in mere hours. Their colonies number in the millions. They build vast underground cities, each with its own intricate network of tunnels, chambers, and feeding grounds. The audience was silent, some leaning forward, others squirming in discomfort at the image. It wasn't the ants themselves that disturbed them, it was the idea of such a tiny creature having such terrifying power. But Xaro wasn't finished. Xaro, and humans? They domesticate these creatures. They manage entire colonies, using their industrious nature to their advantage. These creatures that could wipe out other species in hours? Humans use them for farming, for food production, and even for medicinal purposes. They harness their power and keep them as pets. A collective shudder rippled through the room, but the horror wasn't over. Xaro clicked another button, and the next image appeared. A towering, furious-looking bee hovered in the air, its large, dangerous stinger gleaming in the light. Xaro, and then there are the creatures on land. The bees. They can inject venom into any being they choose. And when one bee attacks, the entire colony follows in unison, turning their venomous fury into a weapon of mass destruction. To most species, this would be an apocalyptic event. Yet the humans? They keep them as pets. The audience recoiled visibly. The idea that a species would willingly keep such dangerous creatures made no sense to them. But Xaro pressed on, undeterred by their reactions. Xaro, they call it beekeeping. They domesticate these deadly creatures, managing their colonies, harvesting their honey, and even using their venom for medical treatments. The humans, despite the threat these creatures pose, have learned to live with them. The audience was horrified, but it was nothing compared to what came next. Xaro, and now, let me show you one of the most absurd creatures Earth has ever produced. The hologram shifted again, now showing a creature that looked like a bizarre mix of mammal and reptile, the platypus. Its fur was soft, but it had the unmistakable features of something dangerous. It waddled awkwardly, its webbed feet barely moving as it glided across the ground, but then Xaro's voice cut through the silence. Xaro, meet the platypus. It lays eggs, produces venom, and can detect electrical signals in the water. It's as if evolution itself decided to make a cruel joke. The image zoomed in on the creature's foot-long bill and webbed feet, showing its ability to swim effortlessly through the water. The audience gasped as they realized this creature could produce venom to defend itself, lay eggs like a reptile, and yet have fur like a mammal. It was a creature that seemed to defy every law of biology they understood. Xaro, a creature so mismatched in its features that it could easily be mistaken for a genetic experiment gone wrong. But it's real. It evolved on Earth. And the humans? They are not just afraid of it, they've studied it. They understand it. They even protect it. A collective shudder ran through the audience. No one could understand how life on Earth could evolve in such bizarre, unpredictable ways. And yet, Xaro's tone shifted. There was something deeper in their words now. Xaro, and yet, despite the hazards, despite the chaos of their world, the humans have evolved to be survivors. The hologram shifted once more, showing a human in a dusty, arid desert. The sun beat down mercilessly, the temperature high enough to bake the very sand beneath their feet. Despite the scorching heat and the empty landscape, the human ran tirelessly across the desert, their breathing steady and rhythmic. Sweat poured from their skin, evaporating almost instantly in the hot wind, but they did not stop. Not for a second. Xaro, they have no claws, no fangs, no natural defenses. Yet they endure. They run for miles without tiring, a feat unimaginable to most species. They thrive where other creatures would perish. And they do it not with strength, but with sheer will. Their bodies, fragile by any measure, are able to adapt in ways that defy every rule of survival we know. The audience was still, eyes wide with awe and disbelief. The images showed humans crossing the harshest environments, forests full of predatory animals, deserts that cooked the air, mountains that could crush their bones with a single tremor. But the humans didn't simply survive, they conquered. Xaro, and here's the most frightening part. Despite their lack of natural defenses, despite the relentless dangers of their world, the humans continued to thrive. They used their intelligence, their adaptability, their willpower, to not only survive Earth's terrifying ecosystems, but to dominate them. They don't just live, they evolve with Earth. They conquer it. Part 5, Earth's Technological Evolution. Xaro, humans are not just survivors. They are creators. They use tools. And not just any tools. They use tools to build better tools. And then better tools after that. Their technology evolves faster than any other species in the galaxy. The room fell into a heavy silence. It was hard to believe that a species so fragile, a species that had no natural weapons, no sharp claws or venomous bites, could be so formidable. Could a species that lacked the natural advantages most other galactic species relied on really be so dangerous? Xaro, but this is what makes them truly terrifying. They don't just survive. They evolve, adapt, and most frightening of all, they've learned to use their greatest asset, their intelligence. Xaro clicked another button, and a new hologram appeared. The audience gasped as the image showed a human strapped into a small seat, the wind howling around them. The human was hurtling down a track at an impossible speed, no protective shield, no armor, just the person, the seat, and the track. A roller coaster. Xaro, this is a human invention called a roller coaster. A simple device designed to throw its rider into fear. These machines are designed to trigger their survival instincts: sudden drops, sharp turns, intense acceleration. And humans, they line up to experience it. The audience shifted uncomfortably. The concept of deliberately seeking out such terrifying experiences seemed illogical to them. Yet, Here was a species that had built entire amusement parks around the idea of voluntarily enduring fear, only to enjoy it. Xaro, they create artificial scenarios to make themselves scared. They race toward danger, not to flee, but to face it head on. They go skydiving, bungee jumping, rock climbing. They take risks that would make even the bravest of warriors think twice. And they do it, for fun. The room was silent. How could such a fragile species, with no natural defenses, so boldly challenge the very forces of nature? Xaro, and yet, this is what makes Earth so terrifying. Their world is trying to kill them constantly. Earth's oceans, its volcanoes, its tectonic plates, its wildlife, they are all hazards that would be enough to wipe out most species in the galaxy. But the humans? They do not cower. They don't hide. They fight back. They adapt. And worst of all, they enjoy it. A new image appeared on the hologram. Humans in controlled environments, testing their endurance against extreme heat and cold, pushing their bodies and minds to their limits. They were running in freezing temperatures, submerged in ice water, or working in environments that would kill most species in moments. The humans were thriving in these conditions, their bodies built to handle extremes others could not even fathom. Xaro, they don't just survive harsh conditions, they've learned to thrive in them. They've adapted their technology to conquer the elements. They live in deserts, on mountain peaks, in Arctic wastes. Nothing is too extreme for them to overcome. They've even mastered flight, something many other species in the galaxy have yet to achieve. They flew into space, beyond their planet's atmosphere, and adapted to a new world entirely. The hologram shifted once again, now showing humans building massive machines that could lift them into the sky. Rockets launched into space, the flames from the engines lighting up the dark void. It was a symbol of humanity's unstoppable drive to explore, to conquer. Xaro, they didn't stop with the Earth. No, they looked beyond their world. They looked to the stars. And they found a way to reach them. They built machines that can travel through the atmosphere, machines that can carry them to other worlds. They have begun colonizing the very vacuum of space. The audience shifted nervously. The idea of a species that not only survived but thrived in the harshest of environments, and then used that survival instinct to propel them into space, was unsettling. There was no limit to their drive. Xaro, it's not just that they endure. It's that they actively seek out these challenges. They have built entire industries based on pushing their limits. They compete in extreme sports, not for survival, but for the thrill of it. They turn everything, every danger, every challenge into something to conquer, something to master. And they do it with enthusiasm. The images on the hologram flickered, now showing humans playing extreme sports, surfing in waves that could break bones, jumping off cliffs with nothing but a rope to stop them from falling, climbing sheer rock faces with nothing but their hands and feet. Xaro, this is what makes Earth so dangerous. It isn't just the environment. It's the humans themselves. They've learned to take the very dangers of their planet and turn them into opportunities. They don't just conquer the physical world around them, they've learned to conquer their fear, their limitations, and they are using that to reach the stars. Xaro stood still, allowing the full weight of their words to settle in. The room remained silent, the audience processing what they had just learned about this seemingly fragile species. Xaro, so, yes, their planet is a hellscape. Yes, they are constantly at risk of being wiped out. But in the face of that danger, they do not break. They don't run. They adapt. They create. And in doing so, they've become more than the sum of their parts. They've become a force of nature. The silence in the room was deafening. The reality of what Earth and its inhabitants had accomplished began to sink in. This was no ordinary planet, and these were no ordinary creatures. Xaro, they are not just surviving. They are evolving. And that is what makes them the most dangerous species in the galaxy.